Good morning, everyone. This is Dan Wade, the Department of State Treasurer. I'm glad you're on the call this morning. We're here with Treasurer Folwell. This is the October 2021 Ask Me Anything teleconference. This is your chance to ask the Treasurer what's on your mind and his chance to tell you what's on his. So with that, we'll have some opening remarks from Treasurer Folwell.
Thank you, Dan. Thank all of you for joining us. There's obviously a lot going on, some of which I mentioned in the Council of State meeting this morning. And just to run through in relation to the media advisory, we still continue to see an employment crisis in North Carolina. I was in Charlotte last week at a major hotel chain near the Charlotte airport, and for nearly 1 hour, there was no one on premises. There was no one at the front desk. There was no one in the manager's office. There was no groundskeeper, no one in the building as an employee of that hotel chain for nearly an hour. Yesterday, I was talking to one of our state retirement board members in good standing, Superintendent Holly from Terrell County. And the superintendent couldn't call me back immediately because the superintendent of Terrell County Public Schools was having a drive a school bus because of the employment crisis. So this is really going on. From the good news standpoint, last week we launched in Asheville at AB Tech the National Disability Employment Awareness Month that connects, at least through AB Tech, partnering with the ARC of North Carolina, and combining that kickoff of that with meeting some students at Project Search, which puts students with developmental disabilities into the workforce, and met a nice couple great people, one who worked at an Old Navy and one who worked for a hotelier, and it was great to visit with those students and learn more about what they're doing to connect people with developmental disabilities and employment. We were also obviously talking about the ABLE program when we were in Asheville. ABLE is a program we run at the Treasurer's Office, Achieving a Better Life Experience. It originated with the thought of the Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T family of Betty and Bose down in Wilmington. And because a lot of the people that are connected with the ARC or connected with these employment programs are also have ABLE accounts at the Treasurer's Office. And the latest thing to come out talks about the issues regarding the proposed proposals out of the federal administration regarding IRS surveillance of bank accounts. And so with that, I'm continue to be concerned, obviously, about the employment crisis and inflation. So with that, I think the person who's laughing loudest should get the first question.
Thank you, Treasurer Folwell, for those remarks. If you haven't been on the call before, it's pretty much just freewheeling. All we ask is you identify yourself and your publication, and you can ask any questions at all of the Treasurer. So we'll open it up for the first question.
Hi, AP Dillon, North State Journal.
Hey, AP.
I have two questions. The first question deals with the unemployment crisis going on in the state. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about what you're seeing with the labor pool in terms of unemployment levels here in North Carolina, and how that's lining up with federal unemployment benefits, the enhanced federal unemployment benefits.
Thank you, AP.
And I'll do my second question after.
All right, thank you, AP. We're talking about the employment crisis, and it's important for your readers to know that part of the problem with this employment crisis is that we use statistics that don't always relate to what people are actually seeing in the real world. For example, the unemployment rate, it only includes those that are able, available, and seeking employment. For example, when I was applying for to be the state treasurer in North Carolina, and I had resigned from the Department of Commerce, I was unemployed, but I wasn't available, or seeking employment. That just tells you how skewed this statistic can sometimes be. And I think that with a new requirement for work searches, because you can't go down any road or go to any establishment that's not struggling with trying to find workers, I think this is a crisis that continues to afflict not only businesses, but also the state government, the school systems, the county, and the city government. And I think that I'm pretty sure that I'm hearing anecdotal information over the last 3 weeks that more and more people are showing up to take jobs, and more people are showing up at job fairs. But when you combine that with what's going on with the supply chain crisis in the United States, that's why I continue to say on these calls that I'm very concerned about inflation, because inflation is a thief, and it's a thief that has a disproportionately negative impact on lower and fixed income workers in the state.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the IRS, the proposed legislation to give IRS, as you say, sweeping new powers to monitor bank accounts with more than $600 in deposited funds. Could you speak a little bit more about that and the letter that you signed?
Yeah. The recently former CEO of BB&T Truist, Kelly King, has built a culture at that institution that if you focus on the why, if you get the why right, WHY, then we can figure out the how. It just seems that this policy, they focused on the how, and they didn't even ask the question about why. Why did they pick $600? And my point of saying that to you is the unintended consequences of completely missing the mark on the why part.
Yeah, but I called in and used Skype for business on my computer, so I've got it running through my computer audio, and I just said the Windows G thing. So like, it doesn't really matter what's happening.
Whoever's talking, tell them to mute their phone.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're live here, so if you're talking off to the side, please mute your phone.
Sorry, AP.
Yeah, whoever's on the conference call, who's talking, please mute your phone.
Let's see who they are, if they're talking to.
Sorry, AP.
Can you mute your phone? Mute your phone, please. Thank you. Not you, AP. And all right. So this is my biggest concern, AP, is that in addition to being the state treasurer and keep.
And stuff. If he says something good in there, I'll still use the both sides.
This is the treasurer. Do you mind muting your phone? We've been hearing you for the last 3 or 4 minutes. Guess. All right. AP, I'm very concerned about this as the chair of the State Banking Commission. I've always had a focus all of my life about the under and the unbanked in North Carolina. And I think policies like this, when we didn't get the why right, is going to result in an exodus of funds from the banking commission, the banking system. And that's exactly the opposite thing that we need to be focused on. I mean, in addition to zero interest rates, which perpetuates the trend toward unbanked or underbanked, this policy is not in the best interest of the banking system, not in the best interest of the state of North Carolina or its citizens.
And as to the why of this, why do you think they chose $600?
I have absolutely no idea. I mean, we learned about it, and one organization that we're a member of, the State Financial Officers Foundation, the treasurer of Nebraska, and had the time to really research this and get out in front of this and started telling other state treasurers about what's really going on. And I have lots of opportunities, as you can probably imagine, to sign on to letters and things. But I do think that this letter is not attacking people, it's attacking the problem. And the problem is, I believe that this policy is going to result in an exodus of money from the banking system and result in more people being or underbanked, and I'm never in favor of either of those three things. And there was a major
This is Mackenzie Stasko from CPA 17. Curious on your thoughts on what some of the local small businesses can do to attract more employees, and do you think part of this labor crisis is part of a bigger, larger problem that highlights a lot of jobs don't pay well?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? People are talking over you, and there's nothing we can do about it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure thing. So this is Mackenzie from CBS 17.
Yeah.
Wanted to know your thoughts on what businesses can do to attract more employees to address the shortage, and do you think that this problem is part of a larger issue that people don't want to go back to jobs that don't pay well?
I think this is Mackenzie. You're exactly right that there's a lot of complicating factors in this, but they're all coming to a head at the same time, and the relationship that has existed, for centuries in North Carolina, and the relationship between employers and employees is something that has obviously been around for a very long period of time, and this is a combination of a lot of things, but it was perpetuated by the fact that in some instances people were making more money per hour not to work. And we're not talking about people, I'm not stereotyping anybody. I'm talking about Austrian economic principles that have been in existence for 100 years. Anytime you reward a certain behavior, you should expect to get more of it. And what we were rewarding was a per hour benefit, so that it was more rewarding for people not to work. So the perverseness of this, Mackenzie, was that the people who did choose to show up for work, who were getting yelled at for slow service, who were paying in payroll taxes into the system, they were actually doing the ones that were continue to fund the system to reward the people who were making more per hour than they were for not showing up for work. So this is having a very long-term effect on the businesses. And I want to repeat, Mackenzie, the biggest business in this state is the state. The second are the school systems, and the third are the counties, the fourth are the cities. This is just not about businesses. This is about government, local and state government organizations that had to provide essential services.
Do you have a follow-up, Mackenzie?
No, I do not. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for the question.
AP, did you have anything left?
AP, did you have any other questions?
No, that pretty much covered it.
I apologize for the interruptions, both to you and Mackenzie. Can't do anything about it.
No worries.
I actually do have one question, kind of a follow-up to what the reporter from the AP asked. For people that don't know, or people who do get those $600 checks, if this new regulation goes through, can you kind of explain what would happen? Does this mean people who get those $600 checks into their bank account, if this regulation goes through, that those bank accounts would be monitored to see exactly how that person is spending that money?
I think it's a pure coincidence that the $600 stimulus check may be confused with this $600 threshold. I think those are two separate items. I think the threshold was something that the Internal Revenue Service put into place with accounts with balances of that amount.
So just to clarify, the IRS rule is basically looking to monitor any bank account in the United States, private, public, doesn't matter. If a $600 or more deposit goes in, it's going to flag them.
Right. It could be a Social Security check deposit. It could be any kind of deposit at all. A Christmas gift from a parent, anything.
And what's the reason for the IRS wanting to do this? What was the sole purpose of this?
Well, we don't know, but their one purpose was to make sure that they're properly, I guess, monitoring the underground economy in terms of them being able to make sure that these funds are taxed.
Treasurer, this is Nayan with the Central Square. So,
Mackenzie, do you have another question? Hang on a minute, Nayan.
No, I think that kind of clarifies it. I was thinking it was $600 in government money, but now I realize it's just any bank account with $600 that's deposited. If this regulation goes through, that could be monitored.
Mackenzie, it's completely understandable. I got something in my head last week where two numbers were transposed in my head, and it was just pure coincidence. Those two numbers are the same. But if you want to reach out and do something on air about these issues, we'll be glad to accommodate you. Nayan?
that's fine, Treasurer. I actually found the answer to my question on my own page in the letter here, so that's fine.
Okay. Well, good talking with you. Thanks for your coverage.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're still open for questions. If there's anyone that still has another question for the treasurer? If not, we'll go to the closing remarks.
Yeah. Thank you for your interest. I know that we had many more people on the call today than asked questions, but we have always strive to be the most transparent state agency in North Carolina and the state transparent treasurer's office in the country, and we have never missed one of these Ask Me Anything calls, even through everything, pandemic, illness, and likewise. So all of you had a choice today about how you would spend 30 minutes of your morning, and we appreciate you choosing to get informed, not just affirmed about these subjects, but actually informed about how they impact the people of North Carolina. So thank you all for joining us, and as I said earlier to Mackenzie, our minds, hearts, and doors are open to you if you need any follow-up access to this or any other question that you might have.
I'm sorry. I did have a follow-up question regarding the $600.
Great.
And I wanted to know. I'm sorry. This is Nayan from Central Square, and I wanted to know, Treasurer, how do you think this particular proposal will impact the privacy of citizens, especially those who have this mistrust of these banks?
Well, I think it will actually impact them, but what I'm more concerned about is the perception of the impact. And I think the perceived impact of this is going to be huge. I have been told by Frank, Dan, and others that of all the things that we've been involved in the last 4.5 years at the Treasurer's Office, that our phones have lit up more on this topic than any other topic since we've been here. And we've taken on a lot of big topics. And this is of grave concern to the people of North Carolina. And that's why I chose, after researching the subject and looking at the proposal that was issued by the administration and looking at what the response was led by the Nebraska State Treasurer, that's when I decided to sign on the letter.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also, different than maybe some of the other states that you cover. In addition to being the state treasurer, I'm also considered the state banker because of what we do in our financial operations division. But as important, I'm chair of the State Banking Commission, which is the regulator in North Carolina of state chartered banks and savings and loans, which include BB&T, Truist, and First Citizens Bank.
You mentioned earlier that this could affect any of the income that comes in, and I think you give an example of if your grandma gave you $600 for gift. And I know that this is just a proposal, but in that scenario now, if that's being tracked and reported, then what do you think can happen? Would then the IRS come back and question you or question that person on that particular gift, and then they have to provide proof that, oh, this came from my grandma and it's not something that I necessarily need to be taxed on? What do you think, that particular scenario like that could, how could that evolve with this tracking system?
Well, I think your question really goes. I just want to be clear. I think the $600 is the threshold for being able to look into an account, not the amount that's put in, but the amount that's in there. And secondly, I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight on this call from everybody who's asked me a question about this, about the regulatory complexity and the regulatory burden this will put on banks, especially our rural banks, state chartered banks across North Carolina, who are already struggling to keep up with ransomware and hacking of their computers, and just generally, fighting against the big banking behemoths across the country. And so anything that has a potential of increasing the complexity or the regulation or the burden on these banks from a reporting standpoint is not something that I think is in the long-term best interests of providing banking services as well as capital to people who want to invest in their mines, their homes, or their businesses.
Thank you.
Great questions, everyone. We appreciate your participation, and unless there are any other questions, we'll conclude. Thank you all, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.